Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Surprise Jab podcast. I'm your host, Zach Ruger, surprising you with new topics every single week and jabbing you with your daily dose of UFC. But we have no UFC today, as we are joined by one of our favorite guests of the podcast, the one and only Mr. Dane DuPaul. Dane, welcome back to the podcast.
I love coming back. It's great.
Absolutely amazing. Dane, give the people a little intro about yourself for anyone who hasn't seen your past two episodes.
Oh, cool. My name is Dane DuPaul. Actually, my younger brother is Zach's roommate, so we kind of had a lifelong connection there. Probably most of our lives through one connection or another. I'm going to graduate from the University of North Dakota in about a month, so that's exciting. Yeah, that's me.
Absolutely. Dane, aviation major. Very impressive. Very, very impressive. Well, we have an absolutely jam-packed episode today. Dane actually reached out to me saying, hey, the NFL draft's coming up. I'm your NFL expert. Get me on the podcast. I was like, I have to have you on. I have to have you on. But it's a Surprise Jab podcast. We got other surprises along the way. So you ready to get into this, Dane?
I'm ready.
Absolutely. Well, kicking us off, the last, I wouldn't even say month, I'd say last 3 weeks, 2 weeks has been all about March Madness. How did your brackets go? And did you have any thoughts on the Final Four?
Well, as our group chat has been pointing out, I did win one of the contests, and so big fan of that. It was my probably second one I wanted to win. The other one had like 30 people, and
Yeah.
it would have been great if I would have won that one, and I was in position to if anything but UConn won. I was in good position to at least cash some money, but with UConn winning, it like just threw me down to 13th place. It was not ideal. So rooting for upsets usually pretty fun, especially when it comes to the end game of March Madness. Last 2 years hasn't been too great with that. UConn's kind of run everyone over.
Absolutely insane. What was it? How many was it 10 games they won, or was it 8 games they won straight in March Madness of double digit wins? I mean, absolutely crazy. And they just blow out Purdue in the finale. And Zach Purdy scores, Zach Edey scores, what was it? Like
37, I
40%,
think.
almost 50%, maybe even more. I think he scored over 50% of the team's points in the championship, which that's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
No, not sweating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just saying, it kind of, I heard a little take earlier today. It was kind of true. Like Purdue went to like a 1960s basketball where they shot like a total of 7 3-pointers and only made one of them. You don't win D1 basketball like that. Granted, probably have one of the bigger big men in college basketball. Still can't win games constantly feeding the guy who doesn't take a break and you have no one else around him.
No, he's playing 40 minutes every single game. I don't even know if they might have taken him out when they blew out Grambling State round one, but other than that, I mean, he played every single game, every single minute in the Final Four.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fortunate that NC State didn't win. I think they were the only underdog in the Final Four. DJ Burns, so entertaining. But I mean, Alabama, I could have cared less if Alabama won. I mean, they're football school as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, again, towards the end, I was just rooting for anyone but UConn to try and win some money. So, what are you gonna
Mm-hmm.
do?
Did you watch a lot of the games?
I watched both of the Final Four games. I like probably 75% of both of them combined. The final, I watched maybe like the first 5 minutes coming out of the half. Watched Purdue go on like a 7-0 run, and not Purdue. UConn go on a 7-0 run against Purdue, and I was like, yeah, we're gonna leave it at that.
Absolutely. Do you have a particular game from the whole tournament which was maybe your favorite? I know for me personally, Oregon took on Creighton, and I think it was the Sweet 16, and it went to double overtime, and that was probably the most entertaining game you got in March Madness.
That was my like I don't know when I was making my brackets what I had, but I had for some reason Oregon going like another round after that after they beat
Yeah.
Creighton. So I was watching that one pretty intently, and I forgot what the dude's name is. That went crazy those two tournament games. He dropped like 40 points each game.
Oh yeah, he scored
Um,
like all their points in the first half
yeah,
in that game.
yeah, he was crazy. So I was up pretty late because I think that was one of the later starting games. I was up pretty late, getting pretty hyped about that one. and that was probably my favorite one of this tournament.
Agreeable. Some of the other moments I can think of is UConn's 30-0 run to open the second half versus Illinois. That's just unheard of. You rarely see that in basketball, especially that high a level.
Yeah, I think when people were talking about it was a record, which then you look and I think the Mavericks went on like a 35-point run this year in the
Oh.
NBA. So, I mean, it happens, but it's kind of crazy when you see it in one of the biggest stages of sports.
Yes, yes. And 14th seed Oakland, their upset of Kentucky, biggest upset of the tournament easily. And how about Jack Goldke getting all of his NLI deals after just seemingly going off for one or two games? I mean, it's
Yeah,
just crazy to see.
that was a bracket buster for sure. That one had a long shot of Kentucky winning it all, so that the bracket died real quick.
Yeah. The good news is, though, is the majority of UConn's going to graduate or go a lot to the NBA draft, I think. Klingon, their center, he's only a sophomore. I found that out. I thought he was much older, but Zach Edey, he'll be going to the draft. So I think next year, maybe some more upsets. I'm hoping.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, as much as I really have kind of distanced myself from Gopher sports, the basketball team is one I kind of like pay attention to, and it just kind of stinks because they were really bad last year, and then this year they got some players and started to be pretty good, and they were like one of those borderline NIT March Madness teams that towards the end of the year just kind of collapsed. But now all of their players have now either gone transfer portal and I think getting drafted. So it's kind of unfortunate that it's going to be an uphill battle to see any sort of Gopher team in March Madness anytime soon.
I completely agree. And I know for me as a Minnesota State Maverick, I mean, we ran Division II basketball this year, but unfortunately, we don't get as much national recognition as the D1. So if there's a Minnesota team I can root for, it's the U. I think that's the only Division I team we have.
Yeah, yeah. I I don't know much about Mankato sports, so I can't. I
And I
can't.
don't blame you. Does UND have a basketball team at all?
They do. They again were what I think they needed to win their conference tournament, and I think they lost in the second round to it was one of the. It may have been Oral Roberts or James Madison, or one of those schools. They NDSU made
Wow.
was it NDSU that made or South Dakota? They made the tournament.
Hmm.
If UND would have won their conference, they would have been in that spot.
Oh my gosh, they're D1 for basketball.
Yeah,
I did not. I thought they were D2 for some reason.
it was actually the year that Zion Williamson and Duke was in the tournament. NDSU played them in the first round. We
2019.
lost. We lost the NDSU in the conference tournament, so we lost the honor of getting our butt spanked by
You're
Zion
absolutely
Williamson.
right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Hey, I was actually at that Final Four. That was a great tournament, 2019. I love that. I love that tournament. Alrighty, we'll move on from college hoops. As we know, the professional hoops, the NBA, is winding to a close. What have been your thoughts on the season from what you've caught? I'm sure you've caught as much as I do. I mean, for all the podcast listeners, we only check in once a week, once on our Thursday episodes at the standings. But I mean, as for us, Timberwolves, best team in the West at the moment.
yeah. I mean, I'm not going to pretend I've been a lifelong Timberwolves fan. I've kind of been a fair weather fan. I've only started watching them in the last 5, 6 years when they started to be not
Not
dookie.
terrible.
Yeah. So I'm not going to pretend that I was there through all the struggles, but watching this year, this was the first year I, bought the TV package and watched. I've watched probably 90-ish% of the games. Um, I've been able to pop on because usually I just have
Impressive.
them on in the background here when I'm like playing Xbox or doing homework or something. I'll just have the game on. So I've seen most of the big plays. Anthony Edwards obviously becoming the leader of this team, kind of taking the reins from Cat as Cat's kind of stepped aside, which he's probably coming back. So that's a huge push for the playoffs that this
I
team
saw that.
desperately
We need
needs when
that.
the offense goes stale and Ant isn't producing. We definitely need that second guy shooter to come in there and make plays.
I mean, oddly enough, in the whole league, I mean, especially the East, the Celtics are the most dominant team in the NBA, and I almost get the vibe they won't make it past round 1 or 2. I mean, they just strike me as a team. I remember the Titans one year in the NFL got the 1 seed and then lost in their first divisional game. You remember that game? Whoever they're playing.
Yes, it was either the Bengals or the Ravens. It was one of those two teams. It may have been the Bengals Super Bowl run year where they beat them. It was like one of those weird like 15-9 scoring games. It was
Yeah.
not an entertaining game, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of the Celtics have been pretty dominant. They've Timberwolves have played them really well when we've played them.
Exactly.
Um, so we'll see. They've won what 63 games though, so they're not like some pushover that everyone's gonna walk over when they play them. So maybe in the finals if we're getting a little ambitious here, but um, I don't know. We'll see.
No, I saw some that they're like 31-8 at home, which is absolutely insane. They don't even have like if you're a season ticket holder, I mean, that's what's up. If your team's only losing 8 games a whole season at home, I wish. I wish actually
Yeah.
Timberwolves weren't too bad at home. We've been pretty good at home.
Yeah, I actually pull we have for the longest time we had lost like one game at home all year. Actually, I have it. We're 28-10, so it's
That's
it's
equally
not
as
too bad
good.
at all. Yeah,
And I mean, I think when we last spoke in 2023. I mean, it's been a while, but I think we were talking about how did you mention the Nuggets might like we thought they were going to repeat or something like that? Did we say something like
I
that?
mean, I think we were just talking about like our thoughts of them winning, and it was kind of like, oh yeah, you got the Joker. It's kind of that really helps your chances when the dude averages like high triple doubles every single time he steps on the court. So do with
Mhm.
that as you will. Luckily, we have the tiebreaker over them. So of the 4 games we have left, we play them once. So that's kind of our battle for the 1 seed. If we win out, um, let's hope that happens. It'd be really cool to see a Minnesota team as a 1 seed for I don't even for any sport when that's last been the case.
Yeah, for the West, I mean, obviously the top 3 teams are us, the Nuggets, and the Thunder, and I honestly don't know which one of us 3 because I think it's gonna be one of those 3 teams is going to win the West and go to the NBA Finals. Because Timberwolves, I mean, we have a Minnesota curse. We have a curse here in Minnesota where we just cannot win. Thunder, I think, are too inexperienced in the playoffs. I mean, they're talented, but they're too young. And Nuggets, I mean, I just don't they don't really strike me as a repeat team to like win it again, but they could. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, honestly, I feel like we of those three, granted, like you're kind of saying, Oklahoma City is super young. Denver's as solid as they're ever going to be. We even last year when we whatever went 1-4 against them in the first round. We played them really well, and I mean, take it as a grain of salt for what it is. But even Denver was like, oh, the best team that played us the hardest was the Timberwolves. I'm honestly more scared about like the Phoenixes, the Dallas, even
Ooh, yep.
Sacramento. Kind of those three teams for me. Uh, I mean, we even just saw it like 6 days ago when we played Phoenix and they ran us out of the gym.
Blew us
It,
out. I was like, what?
yeah. So some of those teams, if they get hot, they get hot. I mean, say what you will, and obviously they've fallen off a cliff. But Golden State, as long as Steph is in the lineup, it's kind of granted. Draymond may have something wrong with him, but
Yeah, man, I don't know. And I think it's gonna either be them or the Lakers if we get the 1 seed. Is so I mean, I don't know if I'd prefer dropping down to the 3 spot or even the 2 spot. I don't know, but this is the final week, and we're actually in our little 4-person fantasy basketball championship, which I find absolutely hilarious that we've just had
mhm.
that for the championship. It's competitive, man. It's coming down to the wire.
It is. I actually checked on it like a week ago and saw that I was in the championship game, and I actually like started setting my lineup because I had not paid attention like throughout the
Yeah.
first round of the playoffs. I was like, oh crap, I better actually start setting it to try and win. So maybe I'll get the upset against the guy who scored like 30,000 points this year. We'll
Yeah, and
see.
I mean, it's a 4-man. I had a bunch of players. I don't even understand how the rankings work. So I'll click on a player and it'll say they're fourth for their position. I'll click on another player, they're ranked number 4, but their points aren't the same. I'm like, I don't
Yeah,
understand this. I'll come back for fantasy football when I actually know what's going on.
I'm
But
with you.
yeah, any final thoughts for the NBA? Like I said, actually for the East, we'll give our East thoughts. I mean, Celtics are probably like the favorite, I would assume. But if I could pick an oddball, I mean, maybe the Bucks because they got Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah, just for S's and G's, we're gonna Orlando Magic play the song. That's would be my
I know exactly
that
what
would be
is
my
the TikTok, right? That's what you're
yeah. That's
talking about.
their whole social media. Every time they win a game, it was like the light the beam or light the beacon or whatever it was for the Kings last year. They just play their old school Orlando Magic song, and I think it's super funny.
Absolutely. NBA, it's better than it was, I think, in the past few years, but that's probably just because we're Timberwolves fans. But that's all we got for NBA talk today. And we're back with another fun topic, fun category, whatever you want to call segment. One of my favorite segments when I have guests, and that is blind rank. Of course, I've had people rank blind things of all, TV shows, movies, sports athletes. And that's exactly what we're going to do today, Dane. Okay. So, of course, if make a little list of 10, and I'm going to give you 10 random athletes from the 4 major leagues. That is right. This one's weird. This is a really weird one because you're going to have to go through the NBA, the NHL, NFL, MLB, and try and pick them apart. You ready for this?
Are we doing like how good they are or like my favorites? I think we should
That's a
do.
great point. I want you to go off of your favorites for these players.
Okay, I can do that.
Your personal favorite. So this is Dane's favorite players in all these leagues, all randomized by me, blind ranked. Let's get into it. Your first player on the list, I'm going to give you Zach Parise.
Yeah, wasn't still not a huge wild guy, but
Mm-hmm.
UND alum. So he does get put up there a little bit. He was a stud for a long time with the Wild. We'll put him at 4.
Absolutely. And I wanted to give you like a personal favorite. I know a huge UND guy. So I don't know. You'll see who else if there's anyone that goes above him. Your next player, Josh Jacobs, the new Green Bay Packer, former Raider running back in the NFL. Josh Jacobs.
We're gonna put him down at 9. This is like even if he was like a Raider still, I've notoriously thought, contrary to one of our buddies believes, that he's one of the most overrated running backs of the last like 5 years. He's had one good season where he ran for like 1,800 yards, which great. Don't get me wrong, that's great. But he's like it's been like 11 and 12 every other year, and he's the workhorse of that team. It's not like they're a passing offense either. Not a huge guy on Josh Jacobs.
No, not at all. And when I was shopping around the running backs, I was like, I got to pick a random one. I got to kind of stump you with them. And that's exactly what I did here as we go to the MLB Mookie Betts, star outfielder for the Dodgers, if I'm not mistaken.
I
For
believe
Dodgers.
so.
I watched him
Right.
this past weekend. I actually saw him play the Cubs. There's no other sports on, so we had that on. Good game. Whatever MLB's doing, making this shot, the pitch clock fast or whatever, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, that is nice, but you're kind of seeing supposedly an uptick on pitcher injuries because they're rushing so fast and throwing. So we'll
No way.
see what the long term side effects of the pitch clock is. As it comes to like superstars and other teams, I really don't pay attention. I'm solely like a Twins guy. Watch the Twins as much as they don't want to spend money on their team and make themselves better. That's a conversation for a whole other day. But I'm gonna put Mookie down at 8 just because I don't know too much about his game.
No, respectable. I don't know anything about the MLB, so I just know he's a star player. Alrighty, next up, we're hitting the ice. I got you Austin Matthews, potentially a top 3 player in the AHL right now, currently on the Maple Leafs. Austin Matthews.
This is the guy that's like breaking the record for goals, right? Like he's scoring a bunch of goals. Do you know by chance?
Could be
Anyway,
Connor
there's a
McDavid, could
Matthews.
be Austin Matthews. All
I
I
think
know
it's
is
Austin.
he's good. That's all I know.
He is good. We'll throw him at 7. Yeah, not too much. I heard he's good. Again, kind of the
Perfect,
same way
perfect.
with baseball.
Next up, I'm gonna give you Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson currently on the Pelicans, leading them into the playoffs somehow. This Pelicans team is in the playoffs.
We'll go 5. I
And
think Zion's a dog. He just doesn't stay healthy too often. Obviously, he's worked his way back from some conditioning issues. We
overweight.
could
He
call it.
was
Yeah,
overweight.
yeah. So the fact that he worked his way back from that and is actually kind of performing at the level that they thought he would when they drafted him number 1 overall. We'll take it. I mean, I kind of like him, so threw him at 5.
Absolutely, absolutely. Your next player, we'll stick with the NBA. I'm gonna give you one of the big dogs, potentially the best player in the NBA, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
I'll go 2. I like Giannis. He's funny when I see like videos of him like being himself and doing non-basketball things. He's kind of a funny dude. So I'll put him at 2. I kind of like him.
I like seeing those videos of some of the guys. It makes them more likable, if I'm being honest. And they're cracking jokes with the reporters and stuff. Your next player could potentially be partnered with Marvin Harrison Jr. next season. He has no more wide receivers. Kyler Murray, quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals.
You
Who
know,
knows?
me and Z-Lars, as you know, we have a dynasty league that we've had for the last couple of years. And we drafted Kyler Murray as our quarterback. And we had him up until last year when he tore his ACL and
Yikes.
kind of screwed us over. So there's some sentimental part there. We'll throw him at 6. That's about all the talk Kyler Murray gets.
I mean, I don't know what to expect from him. He had that Hail Mary with DeAndre Hopkins, but he was a former number 1 pick. That's all I got for him.
Yeah.
Alrighty, what do we got? 3 more spots, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And what are those spots left for you?
1, 3, and 10.
1, 3, and 10. This will be very interesting. These last 3 players I have. I don't know what order to give them to you in. So first off, I'm going to give you Victor Wembanyama, the undoubtedly rookie of the year for the NBA.
You know, I really have no quarrel for him, but just by unless you're gonna throw a real meatball at me and make me put someone I truly despise at 1 or 3, I'm just gonna put Wemby at 10.
At number 10. Oh my goodness. This is setting up perfectly. And I didn't want to play this, but alrighty. Your next player. He kind of slipped down on my list when I was writing him. We got Bryce Harper, one of the star players in the MLB. I wish I would have said him sooner, but where would you put him?
I'm gonna throw him at 3. There's solely for the fact that I hope there's just not one guy that you have. There's one name that if the next guy is who you're saying, we're gonna scrap this whole list. But right, from what I've seen, he's kind of a cocky dude, and I kind of like that. It's kind of funny, so we'll throw him at 3.
He's a fun player. He had stingers. Dave, I'd not even try and plan this. I don't even know how number 1 ended up. I don't even know what player you think I'm going to say. But your number 1 player for your list is Deshaun Watson, quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Can we get some thoughts on your number 1 player being Deshaun Watson?
Okay, never mind. There's now 2 players that I think we need to throw. I cannot.
Player were you
in
thinking
good
I was going to
conscience.
say?
I was thinking Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson. I hate Russell Wilson to the point where when all the talks were of him coming to the Vikings, I have said it and I will stand by it. If he went to the Vikings, I would not watch a game until he is off the team. I can't stand that man. Under good conscience of having a sister, a mother, and women friends, we are not putting Deshaun Watson at number 1. We are going to put him at number 9,999. He goes all the way to the back of the bus.
Oh my gosh, it's just when I put that name down there, I was like, imagine this one ends up as Dane's number one, and somehow it did. So, Dane, why don't you read off your list for everyone and tell me what changes you would make?
Well, the obvious one. So I don't have a number. No, don't have a number one. So we'll go Giannis at 2, Bryce Harper 3, Parisi 4, Zion at 5, Kyler at 6, Matthew at 7, Betts at 8, Josh Jacobs at 9, and Wimby at 10. Realistically, I can just throw Wimby up to 1 for the optics to look better.
Might as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny with these blind ranks, what you'll get. The random sports players really kind of throws you off because you have to think about like across the different leagues and stuff. But yeah, Dane's number one player, Deshaun Watson. You heard it
I
here.
don't say.
You heard it here first. Dane's favorite player is Deshaun Watson. Well, we'll move on from the blind rank. Clearly not the best. Clearly not the best blind rank we could have done. I'm trying to think, what else have I had you blind rank?
Wasn't it music last time? I think we did music.
Oh, bands. I had you do like old bands or
Was it?
something.
Yeah, and then I think it was NFL quarterbacks. I think was the first one we did.
Well, we're not talking about music right now. What we're going to talk about right now is some TV shows, Dane. What's been some fire TV shows you've been watching?
I've kind of stuck with the Amazon Prime recently. Say what you will, if it's a cartoon or not, doesn't matter. Invincible, that is on Amazon Prime, is one of the best shows that have come out in the last couple of years. It breaks the fourth wall. It's pretty funny when they talk about how long the gap was between the 2 seasons, where they started like, oh yeah, animation actually takes time, and people can't keep expecting things. It's got a pretty good story within it. It's not just dudes beating the crap out of each other as superheroes. So I really like that one. Obviously, The Boys, great show again on HBO or on Amazon, along with its tie-in of Gen V, also really good. Trying to think ones I've watched the last couple of years. I'll think when you start talking about some stuff.
Well, first off, keeping on this Amazon Prime track, all three of those shows, fire. All right, absolutely amazing. Invincible, we just covered the season finale. I think last week when it came out, we talked about it, or the week before. And for being an animated show, it has more depth than a lot of human, like with live action, if you will, shows that I've seen. And from what I've heard is this is going to be a long series, a very long series, especially since like we've had 2 seasons and it's like we're still like not even like at the main plot, which is this giant battle between the Viltrumites and between the people of the universe. Have you read any of the comics at all? Know anything about the comics?
When I worked at one of my other jobs earlier through my college year, one of the guys I worked with, he was like one of those stereotypical big nerds, and he had read all the books as like that first season was coming out, and he was basically saying just like, yeah, the first season was like 2 centimeters of the actual like comics that had come out, and the actual like 3 book stories are like massive. So that was pretty exciting. I kind of wanted to get into them own. I looked up what they cost, and like all 3 books were like $180. So we're gonna like
What?
take
Hit up gotta be a library or something.
possibly. But yeah, Invincible, great show. I can't recommend it any more than I already have.
No, I mean, Seth told me, of course, your brother, my roommate, he was going home for the weekend. He's like, hey, Invincible season 2 is coming out. You should watch season 1, and we can watch like a season 2 together to start out. And I was like, you know what? I don't watch animated shows. I don't watch cartoons. And I ended up watching all 8 episodes in one night from 6 o'clock at night till 3 in the morning. I was just up watching these. You want to binge them, you want to watch them. I think season 1, it might be a bit better thanks to that finale than season 2, but I still think season 2 was good. It's just that 4-month break, the 2.5 year break, it really kind of killed it, and especially lost a lot of fans. I mean,
Yeah, the momentum of that show definitely died. I mean, but has there ever been another show that has gripped you within the first like 5 minutes of a TV series of what happened? It's insane, and yeah, can't recommend
no,
it
and
more.
I mean, spoiler alert for the first episode. So if you're listening to this, skip ahead a bit for the first episode of the series. Imagine ending your first episode by killing off the entire main team you just introduced. That's how you hook people. That is how you hook
Yeah,
people in a show.
yeah, especially when like, I mean, at least what I do when you kind of get those like superhero shows, you kind of compare it to like actual real life superheroes. So obviously that was kind of like a parody of the Justice League, where you got the Wonder Woman, the Batman, the Flash, all the characters that
Yeah.
kind of symbolize. And you're like, oh, I'm drawing connections. Oh, this is what Batman would be. And then you watch Batman get grabbed out of the sky and then splattered onto the ground. It's like, what? It's yeah,
So
crazy.
amazing, so amazing. Staying on the Amazon Prime track, The Boys. The Boys, another amazing show. I mean, talk about a show that like season 2 top season 1, season 3 top season 2, and coming out this summer, season 4. What are you excited to see?
Kind of what everyone kind of looks forward to that for as each season goes by is just how more unhinged Homelander gets and how much more he can get away with. I mean, obviously he's the Superman character, so there's not much that can like stop him. But it's
Yep.
it's insane to like watch progressively how more unhinged they get and how far that the production team can like push the limits of TV guidelines. Like
Oh, I
it's
know.
crazy.
Yeah, some of the episodes you saw season 3, I'm like, my parents cannot watch that. I just don't want my mother seeing the things that they've created. But I mean, I don't know what to even expect in the final, in the actually not the final season. I do see that Jeffrey Dean Morgan, a notable Walking Dead actor, he will be joining the show in season 4 as like a team up with Billy Butcher. I'll be excited to see him. He's a good actor.
Yeah, I think I've seen something along those lines of what character he's going to play. I'm sure I've seen some like promo shot of him in his costume or whatever he's going to be. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this season as well.
Absolutely. And as for its offshoot, Gen V, that's also a good show. But unfortunately, some sad news coming out as one of the main actors passed away. I can't recall his name though, unfortunately. I won't
Uh,
lie.
ch- Pardon my pronunciation. I just pulled it up because I knew we'd probably talk about it. Chance Perdomo,
Mm.
Perdomo.
Does it say
So
what character
yeah,
he was?
he was the oh, I can't see his name right off the one sec.
He
Andre
could bend
Anderson.
metal or something.
Yeah, Andre Anderson was his
Yes.
character's name. I mean, when you talk about main characters, um, that's like if the actor for Homelander died mid shoot. He was a focal point of the show, and sadly, motorcycle accident. Supposedly, rumor has it driving up to Toronto to start filming. So
Oh gosh.
that's yeah, very tragic.
Motorcycle. I mean, I don't want to say it makes it worse that he's dead, but those motorcycle accidents are never pretty. Those are always a doozy. But man,
Yeah,
rest in peace. That's all I'll say.
agreed.
And moving over to the Max scenes, formerly known as HBO Max, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, the prequel to Game of Thrones, if you will, season 2 coming out this summer. I am excited for that. As someone who has read the books, I know the lore, if you will, of Game of Thrones. We're in for a treat this upcoming season. You excited for that?
I am really excited. It was kind of crazy how the last season ended with the kid being eaten by the giant dragon. It was kind of suspenseful. You were kind of on the edge of your seat when you saw him walking in to try and negotiate,
Absolutely.
and the dragon was gone. You're like, oh, maybe it ended, and then it ended with dragon claws snapping the little boy in its mouth, and you're like, oh, that's a way to end the series. So yeah, I'm super excited. I constantly found myself like pulling up a family tree of who's who to see if is that Amelia Clark's character is Daenerys, trying to see like what her who's that is related to her, and it's like on the four great grandmother or something right now. It's something crazy.
It's a very weird lineage that George R. R. Martin has created, but I will say that the first season it was all right, but definitely a build-up season, which is always risky with shows. Especially, I mean, I wouldn't even say Invincible was a build-up season. Season 2 felt more like a build-up season for Invincible. But as for, House of Dragon, if you're not a huge Game of Thrones fan, it might be kind of hard to get into with that, if I'm being
Yeah,
honest.
especially when it had the time jumps of going back and forth and younger actors and older actors playing the same thing. It can get kind of confusing. I
Some of
can
the
definitely see
weirdest
that.
time jumps, I want everyone watching to know, like, halfway through the season, they just randomly go like, "Oh, it's 15 years in the future," and all the actresses are, like, kinda different except for one. It is so weird how they do it. Queen whoever, Queen Rhaenyra. Queen Rhaenyra is, like, the only one who time jumps from being, like, a little girl to being, like, a grown-up. It's very odd.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's the only. And but I feel like when you are associated with something as much pedigree as Game of Thrones, you can kind of afford to take those risks of knowing that you're with the same production company that Game of Thrones and how successful that was. You can kind of take those risks and be just like, you don't like it, you don't like it. Who cares?
And unfortunate news in the Game of Thrones universe, as the rumored Snow series starring Jon Snow has officially been canceled before it can even get off its feet. They just couldn't come to an agreement on the script and the direction they wanted to take the character, and it sounded like that Kit Harington wanted to kind of elevate Jon Snow, and they kind of want him to do his whole other thing. So that's some very unfortunate news.
Yeah, that is kind of stink. Jon Snow's kind of been the only decent person to root for throughout the entire show, so
No, I
kind of
mean they did him
stinks.
so dirty. And George R. R. Martin, can you write the sixth book? Can I get that? I read the books. I enjoyed them. Good book reader. And might I say is that the books are going in a much better direction than whatever way the show took them.
Yeah,
Say,
yeah.
have you seen that TED series on Peacock at all?
I haven't, and it kind of spite me. I don't even think I've seen more than a couple clips of the first two movies. I know that's like really bad, but they've seemed funny to me. I just haven't sat down and had the time or been in the mood to watch them. But
You have got to watch Ted and Ted 2. Those are so fun. The fact you haven't seen them, I would want to be you to experience them in full for the first episode. The second one is better than the first one, and the first one is so hilarious. So those are some must watches for you.
I'll definitely get to it. There's not a chance I won't not watch them.
No, and can you think of any other TV shows that you're waiting for new episodes for? Any big ones, small ones?
Not any ones I'm really waiting for, but the second season kind of wrapped up. I just remembered as we were talking a couple months ago. But Reacher, starring Blue Mountain State guy, his name
Yes.
slipped my mind. Crazy seeing that guy who played Thad Castle and Blue Mountain State be this serious actor, which it's kind of funny. The Tom Cruise, he played the same character in those movies all those years ago, and he's this 5'6", 130-pound dude. My dad, who read all those books, those are kind of his forte of books that he's read. He's like, yeah, this is stupid. He's supposed to be some like 6'4", 250-pound dude that everyone makes fun of because he's so big. And when they announced him being who's like 6'3", 250 or whatever he is, he's like, yeah, this is what the guy should look like. They constantly reference it throughout the books, and now they were kind of able to do it through the TV show of just how big they are, and constantly calling him Angry Gorilla or something. So that was a real fun show that I enjoyed watching on a weekly basis.
No, that's on my must watch list. I got to get around to that. Big recommendation from you, I take it then.
Yeah, it was pretty. The first season, yeah, I'd say they're about equally pretty good. No, there's no real fall off from each season. He's an interesting character. The way he kind of acts, it's a pretty good show.
Absolutely. I love that. I love TV shows. And I mean, who doesn't? They're so entertaining. But let me tell you something else, Dane. I've seen this on so many other podcasts. I see it on shows. There's even TikTok pages dedicated to this. So I want you to give me some of your hot takes for certain categories. I'll try and give some of my same. We'll go through 3 categories and we'll each give a hot take and see maybe it is a hot take, maybe it isn't. Ready to do this?
As ready as I'll ever be.
All right, first one off. This is an easy one. This is an easy category. I'm sure everyone has it. They can just think of their personal palate. What is a food hot take you have regarding food? Do you want me to go first or you?
Yeah, you go first, and I'll think of a good one.
All right. For me, this one's very bold. It's very unpopular. I think ranch is the worst dipping sauce.
Yeah, I am one of those people that strongly disagree with you there. Um, Love me some ranch. It's a great palate cleanser, if you will, when it comes to other dipping sauces like ketchup and like Chick-fil-A sauce. Ranch, 10 out of 10.
Here's the thing. I love cane sauce, which I've been told is just an offshoot of ranch. And I try and have regular ranch, and I cannot handle it. I can't handle it at all. And honestly, white sauces in general, not to sound funny, I just don't really like. I'm talking Alfredo. I don't really like any like soups in a white sauce. Not a big fan of that.
Hmm. Well, one thing I've kind of come just thinking about, the first thing that popped in my head, it's kind of a two-parter. One, the thick and creamy mac and cheese, Kraft mac and cheese, far better. Like it's an essential to have that over the original Kraft mac and cheese. And the second part of that, you always have to add your own cheese afterwards. After you're done like mixing all the ingredients, add like some shredded cheese into it to as it like melts in there. That's like a have to for me. I can't just have it a plain bowl of mac and cheese. I don't know if that's really considered like a hot take or more of just like a preference, but yeah, that's the first thing I could think of.
No, I feel like for food hot takes, it's tougher to make a hot take because everyone has different preferences when it comes to food. Maybe like a hot take would be that I don't think Domino's Pizza is a top 5 pizza place of all time. I think that's a hot take, no? That could be a
Yeah,
hot take.
pretty good. As my like second like backup one would be Domino's Pizza is better warmed up than any other pizza on the planet, as I have a pizza in my fridge waiting to be warmed up for dinner. So maybe it was a little on
That could be
the
something. I like that. But next up, next category for hot takes, and I think this one also broad, but I think we can kind of zone in is a sports hot take. Sports hot take. We could go to any league, any type of sport.
well, if you go first again, I feel like you've got some stuff planned out. I gotta think of I feel like I have occasionally some that rub people the wrong way, but just have you go first and I'll zone in on
But one of
mine.
my hot takes is I think what no matter what LeBron James does to even finish out his career, he'll never pass Michael Jordan for being the GOAT.
I mean, unless he wins 5 more rings.
No, I even think that. I think people just call him a ring chaser at that point. I think it's already set in stone that Michael Jordan's the GOAT.
Yeah. I guess one that I can like, I don't know why I have a gut feeling about this. And contrary to all the evidence, I know it's wrong. I don't think Houston is going to be the world beaters. They're Houston Texans are going to be the world beaters that everyone thinks they're going to be this year. I think that they'll probably be about the same team they were last year, even though they've added more pieces. I believe they're retaining all their coaches. I just have this tingling feeling that I think they're going to be a wild card divisional team and then lose.
So then who would be the top team next season?
I mean, I've been burned by it before, saying that they're not going to be as good as they have been, and I think I've probably said it on this podcast. But the Kansas City Chiefs, you can't bet against Mahomes. They're only staying younger. Other than Kelsey, the whole team is pretty young. There's not a lot of fall off from that. Um, I'm still kind of iffy on the Jets. I don't know if Rodgers will be as form as he was. He tried to get his little speed surgery done, and it didn't help him at all. Now it's going to hinder him because he doesn't have full motion of his ankle that he would have had. So still iffy on the Jets. The Bills, they just have no offensive weapons anymore, which kind of stinks because they're kind of my number 2 team. Um, I don't know. I just don't think Houston will. And it's stupid to think that because they have all the keys to be a premier team. I just, for some reason, think something's going to happen and they're not going to be there.
No, I honestly get that. We can honestly rename this bold takes as, I'm going to say right now, I don't think Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen will win a Super Bowl in their career.
Oh, we've already
I don't
talked
see it.
about this an extent about Lamar Jackson. I don't think this year, or maybe this could be considered a hot take. He was the most fraudulent MVP ever this year. He did not deserve to be MVP at all. Josh Allen, I think, is one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. I love Josh Allen. That's kind of why he became my second team. Also, not to change completely the subject, but we were talking about it earlier, and the notification just popped up on my phone. At the end of the first quarter, the Timberwolves are down 26-44 to the Washington Wizards.
If no one knows, Washington Wizards are actually the worst team in the Eastern Conference. They flip-flop with the Pistons. So that's pretty comical. That's pretty comical.
Yeah. So back to our hot take. Sorry, I just saw that pop up, and I was like, I feel like that was worth mentioning.
No, honestly, as we look back now on the Lamar Jackson MVP, it obviously doesn't even make sense. Honestly, I mean, he didn't even have the best stats. The Ravens ended up not even being that good of a team in the playoffs, which is no surprise. But honestly, for a hot take, I mean, I honestly think you should have given Christian McCaffrey the MVP then. Should have rewarded
Christian
his good.
McCaffrey, him or Josh Allen. Josh Allen legit put up 3 times the amount of touchdowns as Lamar Jackson did. And sure, you could be like, oh, yeah, the turnovers. He was responsible for like 90% of the touchdowns on that Bills team. That is the definition of the most valuable player, not the quarterback on the best regular season team. I think at some point we have to preface that award if that's what we're going to keep giving it to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Alrighty, Dane, do you have any categories you would want a hot take to?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, sports are usually where I consist of my hot takes, and we just kind of covered that. So I don't have really off the rip.
All right, here's one more sports hot take for you then. MLB. Ooh, actually, I don't know. I don't know. You'll have to give me your opinion on this, but I think MLB is and probably will be for like the future, probably the worst of the big four sports in the US.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot of it has to do with how they run their budget. From what I'm understanding, and I don't understand it very well at all, but the way the budget works and their payroll, it's basically whatever the owner wants to pay, and there's different thresholds where if your payroll is to that extent, you have to pay like a fine. It's called a luxury tax. That's where the Dodgers are like I think it's insane where the Dodgers amount of money over the luxury tax is the amount the Twins actually spent on their payroll this year, which is, I mean, I think the Dodgers have spent like over $1 billion on their payroll. That's kind of ruining the sport when you're just loading up on 3 or 4 premier teams, and then you have the other 20 some just kind of there.
No, and when it comes to the big four sports leagues, I mean, the NFL is way up top. The NFL is way up top. And then the NBA, NHL, MLB, it's almost like they're all trying to play catch up to reach second place. I mean, yeah, it's tough to even say what is the most popular of the three. I'd say maybe NBA. I think because much more celebrities probably go to NBA than the latter two, but I don't really know.
Yeah, I'd have to give it to the NBA, mostly just for their presence everywhere. ESPN has their deal with NBA, and they talk about them all the time. The NHL is just recently, within the last like 2-3 years, signed a deal with ESPN to even be talked about on
Oh my
sports.
God.
So it's the NHL is super exciting, and the hockey players are in a league of their own. But it definitely is probably NFL, NBA, and then NHL, MLB, kind of fighting for that last spot.
Yeah, oh man, I don't even know the direction sports are going in. I know as a UFC fan, I don't know how to feel about this, but the UFC is gaining more and more popularity. So I've had to deal with more casual fans as I talk to them when they're like, "Oh yeah, my favorite fighters are Conor McGregor and Sean O'Malley." And I'm like, "Okay, do you know about Tatsuro Taira, the undefeated Japanese prospect who just got into the rankings?" And they look at me like I'm a weirdo. But I'm sure all sports can relate to that.
Yeah, and social media hasn't made, obviously Twitter's a cesspool. You don't take anything that you hear on Twitter, but some of the things people say on Twitter what relates to sports, it's like, did you read the thing that was right above you that you responded to, or you just typing to type?
Just typing to type at that point. Just wanna the trolls, actual trolls. But yeah, this hot takes category, this whole hot take segment is kind of taking a turn. So I'll kind of end it off with a general hot take. We will each give a general hot take. So one general hot take that I have, very, very simple, is I think that dogs are the superior pet by a long shot. I don't think any pet comes close to a dog.
Yeah, I mean, I love me a good dog. I'm not going to disagree with that. I was just wondering if that's really I feel like it's almost 50-50. That's a lot more dog people. Like, well, it's more than 50-50. I feel like it's like 70-30. There's a lot more dog people than cat
Mhm.
people out there with or miscellaneous other pets like lizards and stuff. We can
Mhm.
all collectively agree that people who think snakes are cool, no, they're not. Snakes are not cool. Snakes should not be pets. Snakes should
He'll
be
eat you.
burned. Yeah, they should be burned. Um, don't like snakes. Yeah, I know that's a huge bold take there that snakes are bad and I don't like snakes, but um, geez, trying to think of some
I got one for you. I got
general.
one for you. Final thing for this segment, might even when I label the little markers at the bottom of the screen, I might call this hot/bold takes. What do you think is the most overrated movie franchise?
I mean, just because I think they're dumb, but the Fast and Furious I think are pretty dumb.
Mm, that's very
Yeah,
valid.
yeah.
Honestly, I
I'll
think a majority of people might agree with you.
Yeah, I'll stick with that. I think they're all just kind of dumb. Oh, the avatars, the blue people avatar shows. I can't stand those movies. I think they're dumb as well.
Oh,
That
the
may be
last one
bold.
was so long. Last one was so long. I was actually about to pass out. I checked my phone. I'm like, I'm only 2 hours in. I have another hour and something to go.
Yeah, my when I was younger, my threshold as if a movie was good, if I fell asleep or not. I was asleep by like the first hour of that first movie. Not a fan.
I'll say for me, it used to be amazing. I used to be in love with it. But I think Star Wars has become overrated. I think like, the prequels, they were good. Obviously, like, the first two movies have some of their issues, but that third one, Revenge of Sith, probably the best out of all of them. I still think the original three are both, I think they're all good. I like all three of those movies. But everything since, I mean, maybe the Mandalorian's an exception. I think everything's kind of sucked and kind of taken it downhill.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. As both pretty big Star Wars fans here, I think we're just oversaturated with side characters that no one cares about. I mean, The Mandalorian is kind of like that one exception of a side character that's kind of become beloved, especially with little Grogu. And I mean, Ahsoka kind of did that with the Clone Wars being obviously Anakin's Padawan. But I feel like we're just oversaturated with things that don't matter. We still have not had like a Darth Vader. Granted, you could say the whole series is a Darth Vader series. We got an Obi-Wan, which was probably the best thing, last good thing they came out with because it was a main character that actually got some extended media past the 6, 9 main
Yeah.
main movies. So I don't know.
I don't know. Did you see the new show, The Acolyte, or whatever that's called? Just zero interest from my end.
Yeah, I saw the trailers for it. The last like couple, I've never. I mean, my brother and dad watched it, but I never watched The Mandalorian. I never watched the Book of Boba Fett. Never watched The Acolyte. There was another show that came out recently. That was like, I don't really care about all the side. I watched the heck out of the Obi-Wan one because main character.
Yeah.
Let's watch some Obi-Wan. But I don't know.
I don't know where it's heading. I do hear that they're apparently making another movie. They're apparently making another trilogy with Ray. I've heard they're trying to do that, while at the same time also trying to make a separate movie which is in the Star Wars universe, but in like a different galaxy than everyone else. I have no idea what they have planned.
Yeah, I mean, they're running out. I mean, Mark Hamill's getting pretty old. I'm surprised Han Solo, Harrison Ford is still alive. That dude doesn't look great. And we already lost Carrie Fisher, so we're running out of like movies that you can reference the older movies from. So
Yeah,
they better do something.
absolutely. I'll say this, throw this little point in real quick. You don't have to dabble it, but I can say the same thing for Marvel. Marvel is completely lost, I think, a majority of its fan base. Probably maybe even more than Star Wars.
100% agree. The TV shows were cute at first, but then they've kind of killed it. And we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, and I don't even know what new movie or show is out or if there's even one coming out. Like, I actually have no idea.
They killed off all the popular characters, and now they're kind of reaping the benefits or the problems of that.
Yeah. And then you got Sony putting out movies like Madam Web, expecting that they'll revise. Yeah, we don't even need to talk about that. But hot takes, bold takes. It's always fun to discuss things just like that. But Dane, we have a good amount of time left. One last thing to go over. For I've been talking an hour. It's been a quick little hour here
It
on
has
the
been.
Spread Chef podcast. And that's the whole reason this podcast is being made. Sponsored by no one, but we'll talk about the NFL draft because this is looking to be the best draft in, dare I say, the last decade, dare I say the last a long time, especially since I started watching football, where besides the number one pick, maybe the number two, it's all a mystery. It's all a mystery what can happen.
Yeah. I've got my own theories about what, say, like the Vikings will do, but it really has been. I mean, there's Caleb Williams at one, but now more recently, even number two is thrown up in the air, and if it's going to be Jaden Daniels or JJ McCarthy, or they're going to trade out of the number two pick, it's all over the place on what they're going to do. So um, we'll see what happens in a week, or I guess that's what, 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away.
The
Um,
26th. So yes, I think just over 2 weeks, by like a couple of days.
yeah, it's we'll see. I've kind of, since free agency kind of ended and the open endedness of what the Vikings specifically are going to do, I've kind of emotionally checked out. And as we kind of talked about before we started recording, I can't stand NFL mock drafts. They're one of my least favorite things to look at, just because, especially this time frame, people are just throwing things at a wall and seeing what they'll stick. I remember a couple of years ago when really turned my hatred on is, what if Trevor Lawrence doesn't go number one overall to the Jags? It's like they've said 4 months ago that they're taking him number one overall. So you're just trying to make some news article fit that, yeah, he's going to fall to the Jets because, New York media wants the Trevor Lawrence with the Jets. It's like, okay, dude, let's tone it down.
It's obviously obvious Caleb Williams is going number one to the Chicago Bears, but I won't lie, I just do not see him like succeeding like in the NFL. And I know for a fact it's his attitude. His attitude has put me off. It's the arrogance, which I know you can point out that Deion Sanders was super cocky for his draft and everyone loved it. But I don't know, it's just something about Caleb Williams that I just don't like.
Yeah, I was kind of saying he kind of almost has that Johnny Manziel attitude to him, where he's like super talented, and if there's a chance that he can be great. The Bears have never had a good quarterback. Granted, they've won Super Bowls, but they've never had someone throw for over 4,000 yards. So do with that as you will. I think a Keenan Allen being traded in is now like the technically leading receiver in Bears history. If you look at his total yards,
That's funny.
it's stupid how, like, offensively that franchise has basically been dookie, but defensively they've been insane. So I don't know about Caleb Williams. I'm kind of the same with you. He's kind of, last couple months have kind of turned me off of him, even to the point where, like, yeah, I'm fine if he goes to the Bears as a division rival. Not too worried about it.
Yeah, so I think we'll just kind of go through all the teams, talk about some of the prospects, but that kind of starts us off with one is like the Bears aren't Everyone says trades are going to happen. So now it's like they're saying they're saying every team's trading their pick. So it's almost like hard to predict which teams will trade. But I do not see the Bears giving away Caleb Williams. They think they got some with him. So we'll leave that there. And we head to number 2, which is currently the Commanders. And with the giving away of Sam Howell, they've officially said, hey, we're taking a quarterback. We're taking a quarterback. Who do you think? Who do you think?
Yeah, that one was the Sam Howell trade was weird. Like, why not have him sit behind someone or maybe even teach someone? That was a whole weird thing. And then trading him to Seahawks, who already have Geno Smith.
Yeah, I
Doesn't
mean,
matter.
it's not like he was
That was
awful this year.
No, he was I think at one point probably the leading passer in the NFL. He threw for a whole bunch of yards. Granted, he also threw for a lot of interceptions, but do with that as you
Anyway,
will. But it's kind of steaming up a little bit. Obviously, Jaden Daniels has been the favorite for how long to go number 2 to Washington. But there's been rumors, of course, since like the combine and pro days when he actually performed well, that JG McCarthy could even go as high as number 2 to Washington, which I mean, either one makes sense. If you're trying to get a quarterback, why not get one of the top 3?
I mean, Drake May, he could even be an option.
Yeah, there's actually rumors that he may fall to like 6 or 7, depending on who's there. Like people are saying, oh, if the Vikings trade at number 5, they could be able to get him. I don't know. We'll see.
Here's my issue, and I think we're not going to take trades into account, is because, by the way, I also am not a big fan of mock drafts, is I've seen the Vikings apparently trading with the Commanders for the 2, with the Patriots for the 3, with the Cardinals for the 4, with the Chargers for the 5. I do not know if we're going to trade up that high. I don't know. I think we might almost see what we get at 11. I don't know.
Yeah, we're not gonna do 2. Like 2 is out of the question. There's talks of the Patriots. From what I like, people are saying that we may need to give up next year's first. I don't think we need that much. Maybe to go to 3, but for 4 or 5, it would probably be these 2 first and like next year's third or something. It wouldn't be as crazy. But I'm with you. I have this sneaking, dreadful feeling in my gut that we're going to sit at 11, panic like we did with Christian Ponder, and take Michael Penix or Bo Nix even at 11, and then see what we get at 23. And we do the same thing we did with Christian. Oh, we panicked. We need to take a quarterback, so we're going to take him. And it's really not the guy that we wanted. There's been some reports earlier this week, or it was over the weekend, basically like, oh yeah, Drake May is the kind of guy that'll get you fired if you trade up for him and get him. He's kind of a project, which isn't that what you kind of want as it wasn't, were people saying the same thing about Justin Herbert, is that he was kind of, he has all the talent to do stuff, but he's going to be kind of a project. And I'd take Justin Herbert in the heartbeat over even last year with, granted, Kirk was playing at an unbelievable level, but Justin Herbert's Justin Herbert.
Oh yeah, and there's just it always takes a year or 2 to see, like, I mean, Justin Fields is a perfect example of, we gave him multiple years, nothing changed. And I know he has that one good game where he drops 50 fantasy points. Everyone says, here's the guy. He's now back up to Russell Wilson on the Steelers. Okay. So, and then we look at I'm trying to think. I mean, I don't really want to go Tom Brady here. I don't really want to go with like, oh, they found a guy in the 5th round. But there's perfect examples of drafts loaded with quarterbacks where you find that star player and he's not in the top 3, top 5 picks.
Oh yeah, it's just super hard, especially when you talk about quarterbacks. Obviously, we just talked about someone like Russell Wilson, obviously being a later round pick. Obviously, the clear cut example of Tom Brady being one. Brock Purdy is obviously the biggest one, Mr. Irrelevant himself. So there's plenty of cases where, yeah, you got your quarterback in like the 3rd plus round, but it's far and few in between. Almost all of them are 1st to 2nd round talent. I don't know. We'll have to see what they do. I don't have a lot of faith, I guess you can say, in Michael Penix. Bo Nix, sure he can play. I think he threw for like 45 touchdowns, 3 interceptions this year at Oregon. But he's
Yeah.
like 27 years old, 26, 27 years old. He's been in college forever.
What?
So yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. I think Penix is just a worse version of Anthony Richardson. That's left-handed, which kind of bugs me.
That could be a
I
bold
don't know.
take. We're gonna throw that in the hot take category there.
Oh, cool beans.
Alrighty. So Commanders, let's say the rumors are true. They draft Jaden McDaniels. He's off the board. Okay. Who would you take it to then if you're the Commanders?
I mean, I'd take Jaden Daniels, not McDaniel. Jaden Daniels.
Oh, are those different players?
Jaden McDaniels is a Timberwolf. But
Oh, that's the name. Now we're drafting him. He's gonna be one of those multi-sport players like
yep,
what's his name? Bo
Jackson and
Yeah,
Dion.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I'd probably take him just from he's like Heisman Trophy. See what he can do. He's projected to go number 2 all year for a reason. Why not?
Yep. So let me go with 3. It's the Patriots. The one site I have up, I have the USA Today, notable paper. For their mock draft, they have the Vikings trading, which is why I was bringing up how absurd. But maybe they could do that. But the Patriots need a quarterback. But at the same time, you have Marvin Harrison on the board when you have no wide receivers. What do you do with the Patriots with the number 3 pick?
The consensus I've always heard and that I've kind of agreed with the most is you are not one quarterback away in New England. You have a lot of pieces that could be filled. Sure, does a good quarterback elevate worse players around you to play well and be well? Yeah, they have experienced that to a lesser extent with Tom Brady. He's had some Pro Bowlers around him, don't get me wrong, but you can always say that. In that, I wouldn't be surprised if they trade out of that pick, get some compensation for that, draft a few more younger guys, and see where they go from there. It's a new head coach, so who knows? Bill Belichick wasn't known for his drafting prowess. Now he's not there anymore. We'll see. We'll see what they do. But I can easily see them staying as well and taking either JJ or Drake.
Yeah. So just to keep our little draft going, if you're the Patriots, you're making the call. Are you taking JJ McCarthy or Drake May to the Patriots?
I'm probably going to take JJ McCarthy. He seems like the more solid prospect, if you will.
Absolutely. We go to 4. It's the Cardinals. I honestly have, let's say Minnesota is still up there. I've seen them trading with the Cardinals in a lot of these, but in this situation, we'd be trading to get Drake May. And I don't know, it just feels like we'd trade to get JJ McCarthy. Does that sound accurate?
Kind of. I have kind of, the more I've heard stuff and read stuff, I don't think we're going to get Arizona's pick. I feel like they realize they need a wide receiver and they need a wide receiver bad. And if they trade back to 11, they're losing the top 3 wide receivers on the board. So I think they're either going to take Neighbors or Marvin Harrison Jr. They're going to get a weapon for Kyler Murray and see what they go. But going back to your point, if we do trade, I could actually see us trading up for Drake May. Supposedly, we've liked both of them, Drake May and JJ McCarthy. Who knows what's actually being said in the front office rooms with GM and head coach and who they actually like. Take everything you read with a grain of salt. Question, that's lesson of the day, people. Question everything. So
Question
I don't
everything,
know.
Dane DuPaul.
Yes, sir. So I think Arizona stays. Would I be surprised if they trade out and collect some picks? No, but I think they stay and take either Neighbors or Marvin Harrison.
Yep, I could see that. I'm feeling Marvin Harrison. I honestly would be surprised if they went Rome or Malik over Marvin Harrison, but a lot can happen. Number 5, the Chargers. Another interesting thing. I've been seeing them taking Malik Neighbors. I've been seeing them taking Brock Bowers, potentially the highest drafted tight end of all time. I don't know what they're gonna do in Los Angeles.
I think it probably is going to be a wide receiver just because I don't think they want to run into 2024 with Quentin Johnson as wide receiver one. He has not
No.
shown greatness last season. He dropped a lot of passes. Can that change your sophomore year? Sure. He can click in his head and he can figure it out. Who was the Jamar Chase that everyone was saying he had an issue like dropping the ball his rookie year, and then he proceeded to catch like 1,600 yards or something. Things can change. But I don't know. If anyone where the Vikings were to trade up for, I think this is the spot they'd do it. I've said it a couple of times already. I feel like you won't need to give up that much to get to 5. Moving up 6 spots isn't, granted, it is top 5 pick. But yeah, I don't know.
I won't lie, it is going to be exciting as a Vikings fan, the suspense, especially after the first 2 picks. Maybe even the top 3 picks where we wait to see, Minnesota's made a trade. That'll be so hype. And even with whoever Minnesota drafts, because it's still such a mystery. But I don't know what Harbaugh's going to do with the Chargers. I don't really know what type of team he runs with. I mean, he's had his JJ McCarthy. He's had his who did he have? He had his Colin Kaepernick when he was with the 49ers. Now he's got Justin Herbert. I think that he might try and build around Herbert. So potentially wide receiver could be the move. Alrighty, getting down to 6, we have the Giants, another questionable team. All right, Saquon's gone. I don't think they really know what they're going to do. What are you doing if you're the Giants?
This is one of those teams that the Vikings, if they're really considering their quarterback, they may have to leapfrog to get, because I think we've all seen that the Vikings, the playoff year, completely scammed the Giants into paying Daniel Jones that amount of money. Daniel Jones is not that good of a quarterback. As White Lightning or Vanilla Vic, as everyone likes to call him, he's not that great of a quarterback. Granted, last year, every time he stepped back, it was instant pressure and basically killed him every time he took a step back. So I can see them taking an offensive lineman. I can see them taking a quarterback. The Giants are one of those teams that wide open. They can basically do whatever they want.
Yeah, they got holes everywhere that need to be filled. That sounded funny. But I know Joe Alt, offensive tackle for Notre Dame. He's a name that they've been floating around a lot that he could go in the top 10. Personally, I don't find any defensive tackles or offensive tackles exciting. I'm here for them quarterbacks, them running backs, and wide receivers. But you're right. Giants can do whatever. Number 7, the Titans. It feels like the same situation as the Giants. Titans are just, I don't know what the Titans are going to do, but they got a brand new team this year. Will Levis could be leading the charge. You got DeAndre Hopkins, if I'm not mistaken, still there. And someone else joined. Who else joined them? Wide receiver, no?
Yeah, you got me, put me on the spot there.
I can't
No,
remember.
someone definitely did. Can't.
It was, I can't remember if it was, I think it was a free agent, I'm assuming. It was Calvin Ridley joined the Titans.
There it is. Yep, Calvin Ridley.
I was like, oh, why would he go from Trevor Lawrence to Will Levis? But honestly, the more I look, pretty similar builds.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this. I don't know if on this podcast, but in length. I was huge on Will Levis. I really wanted the Vikings to take him and then have him, which his biggest thing was decision making and accuracy, which Kirk Cousins is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL at doing that. So have him sit behind Kirk Cousins for a year, learn, and then have him start this year, which would have been real great to have him start off now that we don't have a quarterback. But we decided to, I don't even remember. Obviously, we took Addison, but then I don't remember what we did. Doesn't matter. Point being, I think they could be a pretty good team this year. Even when Will Levis came in last year, he had his games where he struggled, but that offense definitely looked more explosive than it did with Numbskull Tannehill in there. And so I can definitely see that. They probably want to add another offensive lineman. I think the offensive line struggled a little bit last year, if I'm not mistaken. Or I can definitely see them going like a defensive player, like a cornerback. They lost, was it Byard last year? He went to the Eagles, so they didn't really have their
Yes.
safety. So I can definitely see them going defensive backfield as well as an offensive lineman.
Titans just one of those teams where I just don't really see them having a lot of success. They never strike me as the team to win the Super Bowl. But it's all about rebuilding the brand because there was one time where I didn't really think the Chiefs would ever contend, and now they're a dynasty.
Indeed.
Moving in at number 8. That's right, and they got number 8. That's the Falcons. They've been loading up on offense, so could we potentially see a little Dallas Turner, edge rusher from Alabama here? What do you think the Falcons do with this number 8 pick?
I think it's definitely defense. That offense is probably going to be one of the most dangerous offenses in the NFL. Kyle Pitts is actually going to get his targets. Those wide receivers, Drake London's actually going to have a guy that can put the ball somewhere where he can catch it. They've added a couple of depth wide receivers. Mooney showed flashes of talent in Chicago. Who's the other? They got another little guy, the Cardinals guy, whatever his name was.
Marquise Brown?
No, did they? No, he's
Oh,
a
he
Chief.
joined the Chiefs. Oh my gosh, forgot about
Yeah.
that. Um,
The
I
Rondell
honestly
Moore.
the
Yeah, little
really
gimmick guy. Yeah, so I think that's going to be a really explosive offense. Fantasy people take Kirk Cousins as one of the higher quarterbacks. I think he's gonna light it up like he did for at the beginning of the year for us this year. But yeah, I definitely think that's a D line move for Atlanta.
I'm a little worried about Kirk Cousins. Him and the Falcons and him and the Jets and Aaron Rodgers giving similar vibes the more you think about it. With the Jets loading up on wide receivers, you already have a good running back in your backfield, and then what happens on your second play of the opening drive? You tear your ankle or whatever, Achilles, whatever he broke. Hopefully not to Kirk.
Yeah. Nope.
All right, but honestly, I might cheer for Kirk, but at the same time, Falcons, low key our opposition. Low key, the Vikings always be having to play the Falcons.
I'll always like Kirk Cousins. I've stood by that man way too much to not like him. But the 48 to 72 hours that he first was on the Atlanta Falcons, it really rubbed me the wrong way, and how
Mhm.
he was acting and what he was saying. The chain stuff, that was our thing. That
Yeah.
wasn't a Kirk Cousins thing. That was a Vikings group thing. You didn't have all these chains. It was our team that gave you the chains. It's like a bit.
Right.
That's an us thing. Um, the repeating, oh, I want to retire a Falcon, when you said I want to retire a Commander and I want to retire a Viking. You said those same things, bud. The one thing I do respect is it's not the dollar amount, it's what the dollars represent. Kwesi bailed on him 2 off seasons ago when he would have signed for like $30 million, like well below market value for like 3 years. But heaven forbid we didn't want to give him the extra like year and a half. And now we may not even take a quarterback the year, and we riding with Sam Darnold. In reality, this is like 1 foot in the grave for Kwesi. It's only year 3, but other than his free agent moves have been like stellar. I have no quarrels with his free agency moves other than
Mhm.
not re-signing Kirk. Drafting and the quarterback mismanagement is what may put him out of a job.
It is pretty funny how we went from the best team in the league to now talking about who we're going to draft for our future franchise quarterback in a short amount of time, which is very unfortunate. Speaking of franchises looking to rebuild, we head to the number 9 pick, and they're back because somehow the Panthers just don't know how to operate a franchise correctly. As the Bears get another top 10 pick, not even just a first round pick, they're in the top 10 twice. What are your thoughts on who they take? Wide receiver,
I
defense player?
I think they're done. I mean, hell, they could add Bowers to pair with Cole Kmet. That is an entirely possible thing. Um, but I think it is a strong defensive candidate. They're pretty loaded on offense. They have become a pretty good team in quite a small amount of time. I just don't trust Chicago to do the right thing at the time. They've had talent before and they've kind of pissed it away. So I think it's definitely a defensive player for the Chicago Bears.
Maybe Jared Verse, edge rusher from Florida State. He could potentially be an option, as
I
he's
could
just
see that.
a player that I have up on my list that could go in the top 10. And so our final draftee for the top 10 is the Aaron Rodgers Jets. And I'm just trying to see where on this Jets team they could use some help. Do they have a tight end if Bowers falls to them? Do they have a tight
I
end?
think that's the first thing I was going to say is I think Bowers is the guy that they take. They had Tyler Conklin, but then they brought in someone last year who was technically their tight end one, but it was eh. So I think Bowers, if he falls to them, I think that's where Bowers ends up going, who would be pretty crazy with Rodgers throwing him the football. I think that's a pretty good fit right there.
Hopefully Rodgers stays healthy. I am intrigued now to see how this Jets team winds up performing. And as we get to 11, we have the Vikings here, and just as I've now said it, I honestly do not see us at 11 in this draft. It just feels like we're trading up into the top 5, maybe.
Yeah, I have this weird sinking feeling that we're gonna sit at 11 and Quasey's gonna do some stupid stuff and try and get his second round picks back and trade out of pick 23. I just have this sneaking feeling that that's what he's gonna do, and as much as I hate that, truly hate that, I think that's what's gonna happen. I think we panic and pull the trigger on a quarterback here. There's too many teams behind us to where if we don't take who our guy is now, he's not
Mhm.
going to be there at 23 because we still got to deal with Denver, Vegas. There's another team back there that could use a quarterback. I think we got to take him now. And as much as I'm not a huge fan of it, I think they take Penix.
You think the Vikings are taking Penix?
I do.
Now, the thing for me is I would have to get a Quinn Ewers or Bo Nix to be really upset. I don't know too much about Michael Penix, to like not want to draft him. All I know is that Washington, I think, almost went undefeated or did go undefeated this
They
season.
made
I
the
can't recall.
championship game. So, I mean, they were in the national championship game, but they kind of got blown out by a real football team.
They were in
Um,
the Natty.
yeah,
Who'd they play?
wasn't it Ohio? No, it wasn't Michigan.
Oh, yes. I was thinking of when TCU was in it
That
last
was
year and got absolutely destroyed. Because they're both purple. My bad. But yeah,
yeah.
I don't know what the Vikings are gonna do, but if we're still here at 11, we best be careful because number 12 is the Broncos, number 13 is the Raiders. Those two teams are taking quarterbacks. What are you doing? What are you doing for those franchises?
I mean, there's another guy. It's there's the Tennessee. I think it's Tennessee Holden. I think is his name. Big arm. I can see. I think that's his last name.
I've never Tennessee Holden. I've never heard of him.
Well, Tennessee's quarterback, Holden.
Oh,
I don't
Hendon?
remember. Yeah. No, that was
Hendon
a
Hooker?
guy. No, he went to, or was it?
I
Oh,
honestly
look at
don't know
him.
who this person is.
He um he made like headlines by he threw really hard at the combine.
I suppose I haven't really
Let's
looked at the combine. I did see that they were praising JJ McCarthy and that he was maybe going to go higher because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I've started to hear things now about CJ Stroud, or not CJ Stroud, sorry, Spencer Rattler being like, oh yeah,
Mm.
the Vikings should take Spencer Rattler, and I was like, oh my god.
No, yeah, I don't know who you're talking about. He's not even in the top 10 for the PFF's top 10 quarterbacks in the draft. But hey, there's always that sleeper quarterback that people are like, oh wait, he wasn't on our radar, and they draft him.
Yeah, I'm not saying he was like a top guy, but I just remember seeing him at his pro day and on the combine. He threw like a football. It was like 69 miles per hour or something. He ripped it. So
Wow.
yeah, say who knows.
I mean, you also have Jordan Travis from Florida State. I'm sure he's gonna be on there, everyone's radar. I got other names here: Michael Pratt from Tulane, Austin Reed from Western Kentucky, and Bo Nix will still probably be available by the time 12 and 13 roll around.
Yeah, I think Bo probably goes in one of theirs. I think he's got the talent. I like I like him. Would I take him? Probably not, but I don't know. We'll see. If we took like an edge rusher at 11 and then he was still there at 23, I'd take Bo Nix at this point. It's
Absolutely. I don't know. Something tells me Michael Penix is going to the Broncos. I don't know why. I can just picture him in some orange for some reason. I don't know. I just feel like the Vikings are taking JJ or Drake. That feels like that's our destiny.
I'm just I don't think we'll trade up. That's the issue. I just don't think I think we'll either not want to cough up enough or we just won't do it and we'll play it safe like we always do, and it kind of is unfortunate.
Alrighty. 14 is the Saints. That's the final one we're gonna specifically talk about in the order. Saints. Derek Carr, I believe, is coming back for the Saints team, but they just feel like they've set themselves up as just a team that won't finish in the bottom, won't finish in the top. They're gonna finish in the bottom middle. So I don't even know what they need if you're
Yeah,
New Orleans Saints.
yeah, and I just looked it up. It's Joe Milton is what I was thinking of, not Holden or whoever I said.
So you were making up
Tennessee's.
some new quarterback that's gonna be
I
drafted.
was.
I love it.
I totally I totally thought that was his name. But yeah, the Saints are interesting. Um, Obviously quarterback is some Derek Carr really struggled last year. I'd even see them taking a running back too, because Alvin Kamara is getting a little old, and I unless they had some rookie last year who was okay. He wasn't great. Um,
The Saints?
he yeah, it was some like
Is
fourth
he
or
behind
fifth rounder
Jamal?
who yeah, he when Jamal was hurt, he played a little bit.
Wow.
I kind of forgot they got
Mm,
Jamal, but Jamal is like eh. But I could see them going defense too. I think their secondary and linebackers could use some help. Their D line wasn't awful, but you can always use another good defensive lineman. It's same with offensive line. So Saints are one of those weird teams for sure.
Man, I could, not neither of us big Saints fans in general. So I mean, can honestly care less what they do. Just going off of prospects right now, Cooper DeJean from Iowa, cornerback. Where's he landed? Is he going in the first round? Do you have any idea what teams need a cornerback? First white
I mean,
cornerback in the first round, something like that.
I mean, that's another one of those positions. You can never have too many good cornerbacks in the NFL. I'd love to see him in a Vikings uniform. He's pretty sick. I wouldn't mind it. Um,
At 23,
but
maybe?
if he falls that far, if we don't trade out and he's there at 23, okay, take him.
That'd be
But I
awesome.
feel like there's going to be one of those like higher draft picking teams that will probably snag him at like 21, 20, 19, somewhere in that range. The only thing that's having him fall is he got hurt, I think, at the end of this season, and he's supposedly just recently
Yes.
been cleared to come back to football drills. So we'll see.
Yep. As for running backs, we got a couple running backs here for the top 10. You got Jonathan Brooks from Texas, Jalen Wright from Tennessee, Blake Corum from Michigan, the big name, Blake Corum, national champion, Bucky Irving from Oregon, and number 5, Trey Benson, Florida State. Which teams are you feeling are going to be drafting running backs in this draft?
I can still see, obviously, we talked about it at 5, but I can see the Chargers drafting a running back as well. They got rid of Eckler. I
Eckler's
believe he's
gone.
in.
Eckler's on the
Yeah,
Commanders.
he's a commander now. and they signed like the whole Ravens backfield. I mean, they got Gus Edwards and the other guy. I don't remember what his name was off the top of my head. There was another Ravens guy
JK
that they
or
signed.
who was it?
Yeah, J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are on the team now, so they could obviously use another good running back. As the Chiefs got Pacheco. Houston got Mixon now. So
Oh yeah,
running backs are one of those weird positions where, I mean, Tennessee could even take one too because they lost Derrick Henry.
I could see that. Maybe Cowboys at 24. Because isn't Pollard gone?
Yep, he's a Titan. Oh yeah, he's a Titan, isn't he?
Wow, he is. Maybe I gotta go back to my Titan statement. I forgot. They added Pollard, but Cowboys, I could definitely see them taking someone. Maybe, gosh, that's just the Bills. Maybe Bills can take a running back.
Yeah, someone to pair with James Cook. I could see that for sure.
Oh, James Cook. Maybe the Bills were looking at a wide receiver down there in the
I
draft.
think that's probably where they look, just because they need someone now at this point.
Actually, that brings me. Bengals could also use a running back without Mixon.
Yeah, there's that, was it Brown was his last name, who made like a couple long screen catches and everyone was like hyping him up for some random reason. There was some random rookie or second year guy that made some plays for the Bengals yesterday. So hopefully, I mean, not that I really care what the Bengals do, but they don't like hype him up to think he's a starting running back. So I could definitely see the Bengals taking a running back.
Absolutely. And this has been a super fun podcast, Dane. But I always like to end these episodes with a very good take from you. You are a hardcore Vikings fan. So to round this off, this will be the final thing we talk about. What players will you be very mad if the Vikings draft? You've expressed a bit, but what player is Roger Goodell saying on the microphone that you are taking a remote and just throwing it at your TV? Burning your jersey? Who's on your don't draft for the Vikings?
First off, I think even before we go to the don't draft, if we trade out of the 11th pick, like trade back like 4 or 5 spots to get more picks, I'm gonna be livid for that.
That'd be insane. That would just break
That
everything.
and let's be real, that's something our front office would do, and I can't stand that. As I've kind of grown to it, 3 months ago, if we drafted Penix, I would have turned the draft off and like stared at a wall. Not a huge, wasn't a huge. He's kind of grown on me. Whatever. I wouldn't hate if we got like one of those C tier quarterbacks, like the Ewers, the Joe Milton, the Bo Nix is like borderline. He's kind of got that Justin Herbert talent.
Yeah.
If it builds up to that, not to the extent of Justin Herbert, but he's kind of a dog. I kind of like him. So if we reach for a quarterback, that's kind of the biggest thing. If we panic, or if we take another offensive lineman, if we take an offensive lineman or a wide receiver, what's the point?
Why? There's
What are we
just
doing?
no way, like wide receiver. I mean, because we somehow have JJ again this year, at least to start the year. And we got Jordan Addison for the foreseeable future, but the offensive tackles, that really would upset me because
I agree.
I mean, I hate to be rude, but there's no excitement, first off. And I think, obviously you have to build a good team, but to build excitement, to make money for the fans, that's also a goal of the franchise. And picking up a big QB, that always generates a lot of hype. A lot of hype.
I mean, think about it. When's the last time we've had like a rookie quarterback on this team that we look forward to starting?
Not
We
my
really
lifetime.
haven't. Yeah, I mean, maybe you can. I guess again, not in our lifetime, but Culpepper. I don't. I guess I don't remember if we drafted him as a rookie and expected him to start playing right away. Um, I don't know. There's a lot. Tavares Jackson, maybe.
I don't even know who
I
that
don't know.
is.
You know who Tavares Jackson is?
Tavares Jackson with a T?
Never mind. Yes, we're fine.
Escaping my
He was
mind.
he was the quarterback before Favre.
But if you're a Bears fan, are you excited for Caleb Williams?
I think you're excited in general. I mean, Caleb Williams, whoever you're going to take at 9, that offense, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Komet, if you add another guy in the draft that you can pair with them, they've got a pretty exciting team. So I would be excited to be them. Will that come to fruition? I don't know, because they said Justin Fields was MVP last year. So who knows?
I don't know. I don't know. We may be back in a month to do a little post draft analysis or something, because just anything can happen. Anything can happen in this draft specifically,
100%.
without a doubt. Dane, do you have any other topics you want to go over? Any other thoughts you have for this episode?
Not off the top of my head. I think we covered a lot of the big ones.
I think we did too, and I think the reason that a lot of people are skeptical about who the Vikings should take is just, I mentioned it with the Timberwolves. Minnesota has a bad luck stigma, and if this player doesn't work out, they're just gonna give up on the franchise, and we'll end up being the Panthers, who you can buy a ticket in the nosebleeds for $1, under $1. I'm pretty sure that was a thing this past season.
Yeah, I mean, unlike them, we're a pretty good fan base where we sell out regardless of how bad we are almost every home game. So I don't know if that will ever be the case, but there's a real possibility this is a building block here, to say the least.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The NFL draft going down April 26th. So that's coming up in, gosh darn, just about 17 days. 17 days, I think. Something like that. Alrighty, Dane. Why don't you give us one final thought? Thank you, of course, for your time here on the podcast. Always appreciated. This is not the first and this is not the last time we'll be doing this, but give the people something to ponder, something mysterious.
No,
Something,
we're not
something
going
to
to stay
keep
with
them
that.
going.
It does get the people going. Let me tell you that one. It's provocative, and it gets the people going. If you know, you know.
Alrighty, but my man Dane referencing Kanye. Thank you so much, Dane, for joining us. My favorite UND school member and my future pilot one day. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here on the Surprise Jet podcast, and I will make sure to catch you all next time. Have a good one.